Now that we have our roof vent installed, we can go ahead and put our insulation in the ceiling. Our main purpose for insulation is going to be sound deadening. Before anybody puts in the comments section that we've got thermal bridges or anything wrong with it, remember our primary focus here is sound deadening. The reason for that is with a metal roof like this in a van, the slightest amount of rain is incredibly loud on the inside. Even in my shop with a metal roof and no insulation, the slightest rain becomes very, very loud. It's almost like you're sitting inside of a metal drum while someone beating on it. And we just bought some Amazon Basic sound deadening from, obviously, Amazon. And this is a butyl rubber product. There's lots of options for this these days. You can get Dynamat, Killmat, all sorts of stuff. But this stuff's pretty inexpensive. And we got 3 boxes of it. And we're going to be very, very surgical in where we apply this. So primarily on the roof, but then we're also going to apply some in the header areas in the high roof van, just for sound deadening when it rains or traffic or anything like that. So let's get to it. So the first step is to degrease the entire surface that you're going to apply the mat. So we're going to use some acetone here in a rag, and we're going to clean off the ceiling here, just to make sure we get really, really good adhesion with our mat. So this is all going to be covered up by more insulation and then panels, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm going to put basically 3 in each section between the ribs here. This is the most important area because this is over the bed, and like I said, I don't want to be woken up by rain or kept awake by rain. All you got to do is peel off the backing, like so, and then we're going to start in the middle, then apply it outward, like that. And then we're going to use a roller to make sure it is applied very firmly and stuck very well down. And we can just continue doing that through the rest of the roof. So I went ahead and bought 3 10-packs of this, so 30 sheets, and we've used 11 of them on the roof. Now, some people will go through and they will cover the entire roof of the van, their entire van interior with this stuff, but it's pretty heavy if you think about it. 3 boxes of this is 23 pounds, and it's pretty easy to add 100 or 200 pounds to the van doing this if you were to cover the whole thing. So once again, I'm being very surgical in where I apply this. So aside from spacing out on the roof, which just, given the tap test, makes a huge difference in the frequency, and that's what this is supposed to do. You're supposed to lower the frequency so that it doesn't rattle and it's less offensive. And for my purposes, when it rains, that's what I want. So in the header area of the van here is kind of the next place I'm looking at, because if I take the screwdriver and tap it up here, it rings like a gong. And it does that all along the upper header here. So with just one piece of sound deadening, you can hear the difference. So one last final comparison between the right side of the van with no mat and the left side. So here's the right side. And the left side. So you can hear how much more of a dead thud it is, which means it's not going to ring when it's raining. Okay, so I've pulled the van out in the rain, and I'm going to splice in a piece of footage here that I took with my phone previously before we installed into the sound deadening in a similar type of rain. So it's quiet enough standing out in the rain that you can't hear it raining, but in the van, you could definitely hear it rain. And I'm in the van again in that same type of rain, and it is much, much quieter. So here I'll be quiet and you can try to listen. So the sound deadening, even as little as I've put, makes a huge difference. So for the rest of the insulation in the van, we're going to use 3M Thinsulate. I looked at several other options for insulation and always came back to Thinsulate as being the best. It doesn't absorb moisture, it's fire retardant, it doesn't come apart and create particles that you have to breathe in. It was designed as a sound deadener first and thermal insulation second, and sound deadening is what we're after. So we're going to use Thinsulate. So it comes in 5 foot by 10 foot rolls from where we bought it from, and needs a pretty good pair of scissors to cut, but otherwise you just cut it, apply some 3M 90 adhesive to the insulation and the inside of the van, and install it between the ribs. So this 3M 90 max strength adhesive is what's recommended. You apply it to both surfaces, so we're applying it in the van and to the insulation. Let it dry 1 to 2 minutes till it's tacky, and then apply both of them together. It is kind of messy and will drip down, so make sure you cover your floor with something if you don't want to clean up a bunch of adhesive. Most of the van roof is pretty straightforward. The sections are simple rectangles, so you just measure, cut, and glue. The front section on the higher roof at least has a few extra considerations, like the large foam blocks and the antenna. We masked these areas off with some painter's tape so we didn't get adhesive there, and then some sheet plastic kept the seats and dash from getting sprayed also. To fit the insulation around the foam, I made a template from Builderboard and cut the insulation to fit around it. All right, one more test here. It is still raining outside like it was doing before, but now we have the Thinsulate insulation on the roof. It is much, much quieter. Here, I'll be quiet and you can listen. Now when you get over to the sides where there's no Thinsulate over here, just our sound dampening, it's louder, but still much quieter than it was before. So once we get some more Thinsulate throughout the van, I think we'll have plenty of insulation. I think it'll be great. We've started installing the ceiling in our van here. It's finally quit raining enough that we can record some audio, and I'm coming off the tail end of a cold, so my voice isn't great anyway. But what we're using is some thin wood wall paneling. Got this at our local Menards. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. It's lightweight, it's inexpensive, it's pre-finished, and it's easy to work with. So I looked at a bunch of different options for putting wall panels and ceiling panels in the van, and this kept coming back because it's wintertime. I don't want to paint anything and have to have it dry because we have plans to use this van relatively soon. So we're just putting some of this wall paneling in on the ceiling and the walls. We're not going through and putting any furring strips down. We are just attaching this straight to the metal. Once again, trying to keep it light, trying to keep it simple. We're not living in this van. This is a weekender. So this wall paneling, makes it look kind of like a mobile cabin and should match our bed frame that we built and our cabinets pretty well. So we've already got these 3 sections in. These ones are pretty straightforward. Some cutouts for our wiring and our fan. Now we're on the very front section, which is requiring a template because it's got the foam corners. It tapers. It's got a curve to it. So let's keep working on that.
So these are self-drilling drywall screws designed to hold drywall to metal studs. And these are the only black self-drilling, self-tapping screws that I was able to find locally. I wanted to use these because I wanted a black screw because I figured it'd look cleaner with our panels and hide a little bit better. The problem is the head on them is taller than the panel is thick, so they stop pulling when this gets all the way through the metal, and they don't pull up flush and then it'll hold tightly. So I've switched to these classic tech screws. So these are truss head, self-drilling, self-tapping screws. I like them, but I wish they were black. Okay, so we got the ceiling in the van, and overall, pretty happy with it. So this front panel here with the curve and notches around the foam was pretty challenging to make, but I think I've got it in here, pretty happy with it. But there's a couple issues, and let me show you what I mean. So because the roof panels have a curve to them, and they pull down onto the ceiling joists here, and there's a big gap, they don't want to follow the curve exactly. So what that leaves us with this giant gap between the panels where our wall is going to go. So one solution would be to simply cut the wall to this curve and make it match. But I think I'd like to try to pull this down a little bit and make it more even from the get-go. So we're going to take these panels out and see if we can put a spacer or something in here and support this a little bit better to have a better fit between our wall and ceiling. So here's the solution we came up with. Took some 3/4 inch plywood and ripped it in the table saw. Set the blade at a 25-degree angle to give us a nice 115-degree angle between the wall and the ceiling. And put the furring strip here between the ceiling joists. So what this does is, you can see this side here is already installed. It gives us a nice, clean, crisp edge and holds the flexible panel pretty firm. So now we just need to go through and do it on the rest of the van. One quick note on these Ford Transits is between the B and C pillar, the header is hardened steel. So you're not going to be able to drill through this or put a screw into it. So we're going to have to get some power grab adhesive and glue this up here. But that's what we're going to have to do to put the panel on this section anyway. So that's on both the passenger and driver side in this section of the van. You're really not going to be able to drill through that. Okay, so now we've got insulation, walls, and sound deadening in our van. Let's talk about how much we used and what it covered. We bought 3 boxes of the Amazon Basics sound deadening, and we covered pretty much the entire roof, both sides of the van, and the back doors. We did not put any sound deadening or insulation in the sliding door on the side. The insulation we bought 30 feet, so it's a 5-foot wide roll, and comes in. We bought 3 rolls that were 10 feet long, 30 feet of that, and that covered the entire roof and both sides of the van, not the back doors and not the side door. We didn't do the front doors either. And some people do the area above this headliner. We didn't pull this down and put any insulation in there. Our van is a 148 wheelbase standard length. It is not the extended length. If you have a bigger van, you're going to need more than that. For the wall panels here, these are 4x8 sheets, and we bought 10 of them, and we used all 10. So once again, if you have a longer van, you're going to need more panels than that. That's it for this episode of Ozark Garage. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see us do wiring, reinstall the bed, finish up our motorcycle mounts, and take the van out and give it a try.
So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.